No, we spoke
It's spirit in the book. Well, I think it's been such an endearing and enduring character. And our book, the Black Country Society's book on the Tipton Slasher, was first published in 1970, in the days when the heritage of the Black Country was under threat to becoming part of a wider Birmingham, and it just fired, I think it's fired the imagination of Tipton people and Black Country people in general. He's such a character. He was a gentle giant in many people's eyes. Whilst his job was very violent, as a man he was gentle. He got what he wanted through his fighting. It was a real life story from start to finish, from his days on the boats at 7 right the way through to his boxing days, and then his sad demise in 1880, having lost his last fight to Tom Sayers. So there's a real story about the guy. A lot has been written about him, and we're fortunate because a lot of the research is in magazines such as Pugilistica and Bell's Weekly, and those have captured what the Tipton Slasher was. He just encapsulates Tipton and the Black Country.
Well, as someone who's lived in Tipton all their life, it's important to keep the name of Tipton in people's minds, and I think it does help, because he's known worldwide, isn't he? So I think he'll always be sort of part of Tipton, and there aren't many people who can say that.
Don't get the 2 weeks up, that wouldn't be for a start. One day.
Jim, we'll just have one with our fists up at one another if you don't mind.
We also have a story of how the statue came into being, where Adrian Bailey, right on the Adrian Bailey MP, will be saying a few words to commemorate William Perry and his statue, and also the week that's been put into this event of today.
Well, in many ways, I think he embodies the sort of traditional virtues of Black Country men. Tough, hard-working, very hard life. I believe he used to have to fight other bargees for the privilege of going through the locks first, and he honed his fighting skills on, if you like, the everyday problems that he had to meet and challenge, and he's really representative of local history. Well, I think first of all it gives them an insight into what it was like for people working in this area in those days, the very tough life he had, and how difficult it was to survive in those days. So, and giving people an understanding of that, I think, is important, but also because in many ways he embodies all the strengths and virtues of the area. They can feel a sense of pride that he was a boxer who ruled supreme in this country, and he came from their own community, of which they're still very much part and parcel of it. Thank you all for coming along today, the 21st anniversary of the unveiling of this fantastic statue of William Perry. The great thing about the Black Country is its fascinating history and the fascinating people who made it. And I think it's fair to say that William Perry is foremost amongst those. And going back many years, when we had the founding of the Black Country Living Museum, the various community organisations that we have here, they had the idea of ensuring that William Perry's contribution to our local history was immortalised by this statue. And I think anybody looking at it can say that it's a really fitting memorial to this area. Now, today, this event is to commemorate the 21st birthday of this, and it's been made possible by a number of organisations working together. And first of all, I think we have to recognise the contribution made by our own very local building society, the Tipton and Coseley Building Society, represented here. So give them a big round of applause. I go to any number of events and they are the sponsors, and they really do uphold the tradition of building societies and contributing to their local communities. But in addition to them, if they provide some of the money, there are a number of organisations who we have to remember have played an enormous role in this, and without it wouldn't have been possible. And those are the Tipton Community Association, the Tipton Civic Society, the Black Country Society, I see with a stall over here. And I have to also say with great pleasure we have the person who first pioneered the idea of this statue 21 years ago, Jim Holland as well. Where are you, Jim? You just disappeared. Where is he? So give the various societies a great round of applause, but Jim in particular. Thank you, Jim. I bet you when you first had this idea, you didn't think in 21 years' time you'll be standing here with a crowd like this to appreciate your idea and the work that we put into it. So thanks very much, Jim. You played a very important part in our local history here. Now that's all I want to say today. Just thank you for coming along, and thank you for being part of this brilliant event, and really have a very good time indeed. In a few moments I'll cut the cake. Thanks very much, everybody.
Just one other short presentation tonight.
I've already mentioned the book, the Tipton Slasher from the Black Country Society, and this is the official launch for the book. It is a work that was first published in 1970 by the Society and has been refreshed and reprinted, and it looks like a 21st century book now. And I just call upon the chairman of the Black Country Society, James Morgan, to present a copy of the work to Adrian Bailey.
Thanks very much. I thought I was going to have to pay for it. You will. Actually, I've got orders for this, I have to say, so I'll be buying soon.
1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Tipton Slasher. Happy birthday to you.
Come on, James.
Well, the Slasher really is a proper black countryman, the heart and soul of it. He's proved himself in the world, not only in the black country, and he's brought the world back to the black country. Obviously, the Slasher was a family man, and I think the people of Tipton and the black country, if they follow his ways, there ain't much they can go wrong with. He's there and he's built Tipton to what it should be. He's put the foundation down again by some of the ways of fighting and showing people that we have got the strength in the black country. Good old Tipton Slasher.
Well, I think the Tipton Slasher is a great asset to our community because he was champion of England for 7 years, and he's part of our British heritage. He's like what the Eiffel Tower is to Paris. in my eyes.
And you were a direct descendant of him, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I'm his great-great-great-granddaughter.
And how do you feel about that?
Well, it's nice, you know what I mean, to know that there's somebody famous in the family, and you know, it feels good to have like a statue erected as part of my heritage, you know, and me being a Perry, you know, it's something to put my name on, you know what I mean, to carry our name on and that.
What do you think the people of Tipton can learn from what the Slasher did?
They can learn how fighting was back in the day. Win, lose or draw, you were still friends at the end. And, you know, good, honest, clean fighting. No dirty business, no quick shots, no low blows, just pure British, honest fighting, clean cut, bare fist, as it was meant to be.
Why is the Tipton Slasher important to the people of Tipton? I would say really he's a legend, he's an icon. People from Tipton are proud to come from Tipton, and I think they associate, you know, he was the champion of the country, and they're proud that he was representing their town at the time as the Tipton Slasher. The original statue appeal fund, when the statue was put up in Coronation Gardens 21 years ago, our chief executive at the time was a gentleman called Chris Martin. He was actually part of the original Slasher Appeal Committee. So we do go back to that appeal 21 years ago. And the recent today, what today's been about, is Jim Holland, who was also one of the original committee, approached the Building Society to ask if we would get involved in organising a day to celebrate the Slasher's 21st birthday of the statue, which we were only too pleased to do, really. You know, we like to support the local community, as we tend to do with most events that go on in Tipton, like the Carnival, the Canal Boat Festival. And I actually said to Jim at the time, if we could get the other organisations in Tipton to pull together, we could turn this around, and we've done it in about 2 months. So really, with the work of Tipton Coseley Building Society as sponsors, but Tipton Community Association for organisers, and Tipton Civic Society and the Black Country Society, we've pretty much got it all put together within 2 months, and hopefully everybody's had a great day today, which people have turned out to support us, and I think everybody's had a great time, so good to see.
Because metal burns upon re-entry if the angles are equal to the sun. So now at night there's another dim light floating in that great big void. As Jez waits for someone to bring them back, and he's off. This is a lady who has travelled a good way, actually. She's come all the way from nearly Wolverhampton. She's now going to entertain you with some of her poems. Please put your hands together for Eileen Ward-Birch.
This one is when the black country was green. When farmers grazed their cattle in a place called Sheffield Green, and golden fields of ripening corn waved across the rural scene, would you believe this pleasant land would become the black country? Milkmaids worked at milking bank, making butter from the cream. Farmers' wives turned corn to bread, and children frolicked in clear streams. Who would believe this pleasant land would become the black country? Villages had space between where all the air was fresh and clean, and rivers flowed between green hills where open landscape could be seen. Who would believe this pleasant land would become the Black Country?
I think the most important thing about Tipton Slasher is the fact that realistically he was the first person from the Black Country to make it very, very big in places like London and Liverpool and Leeds. For example, in London he was a friend and confidant of a number of very major figures, people like William Makepeace Thackeray, who wrote Vanity Fair. It also seems, for example, that he knew and was questioned by Charles Dickens, who wanted lots of information about boxing for some of his major works. So really, he was the first person from the Black Country to make it very big in other parts of the country and for them to see what Black Country was all about. It was noticeable that in the obituaries for the Tipton Slasher that many of them spoke about how much of a gentleman he was and how that he would look after young children, that he was very courteous towards women, and that generally that he was extremely well thought of by absolutely everybody. And that's another trait from the Black Country that I think is very, very important, says he with a London accent.
Well, personally, if you consider that the Tipton Slasher was born in 1819, and by the age of 14, he'd left the canals, got frustrated with that type of work, and went down to Chelsea with the navvies, making canals, digging out canals, mainly by hand, don't forget. Why do I think William Perry's special? I think he's special because he reached the very, very top of his profession. And he was pugilist champion of all England, which is bare knuckle fighting, from 1850 to 1857. I also think he's very, very special indeed, because he was a lovely man. When the people of Tipton left records, there's bits, just little bits about him still available. And we know what a generous man he was, and many a poor family in Tipton has benefited by the purses that William Perry earned by fighting for a living. I think that Perry is a marvellous example. Totally illiterate, could not read nor write. So all the people of the Black Country, listen carefully. You haven't got to have a university degree. You don't need a fancy education. If you've got the willpower to succeed, that's what William Perry did, that's why he's special.
And how do you feel when you see the statue there that you helped put there?
The thing with the Tipton digger-uppers, as they called themselves, was I was held to ransom. I was told in the Noah's Ark, which is just behind me in Wood Street, on a Sunday lunchtime, that if I didn't do summit fitting for the slasher, they were going to dig him up and bring him back to Tipton. And I retorted over my dead body. His remains have been there since 1880. Please let them remain where they are. Rest in peace. The conversation got a little heated. And I decided at the end of the day that we would meet the following Sunday to do summit fitting for William Perry. And in conversation, loads of discussions went on. And I said, well, what about a statue? Let's think big. We can always scale it back, but let's think big. Let's go out there and try and put a statue, a life-size statue up in the name of William Perry, the Tipton Slasher. And 14 months later, we have the bronze statue in Coronation Gardens in Tipton. And that was in 1993. I think it was the 3rd, very early May Day bank holiday in 1993. And to celebrate today's events is the 21st year since the unveiling of the Tipton Slasher.
Quick introductions. Mr. Adrian, the Right Honourable. Mr. Adrian, Honourable Adrian Bailey. Take a round of applause, Adrian, please. Your local Member of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen. There's Mr. Ian Walden, the former boss of the Black Country Museum, 30 years service, and he did a great deal for the Black Country, and I think Tipton in particular. Ian, thank you very much. I'm deliberately missing out my wife and my other relatives. If I've missed anyone else, Steve Woodward was here somewhere. I don't know where he is. Steve? Stevie Woodward, shake. Put your hand up. Gold's tooth, he's mutton, Jeff. Give us a shake, Steve. Say hi. It don't matter. I think he's a bit shy. Mind you, I had a bad leg. They give me £20 more on my money when I put a walking stick beside of me, so I'm in good company, lad. Let's talk about the Slasher. In 1925, there was an appeal by the then Vicar of St John's, the Reverend D.H.S. Mould. He and some lads, and Mr Bradley off Cateshill. And there were others that got involved, Hugh Corbett and others, to try and do something, because the Slasher's grave was no more than an iron plate. In the churchyard, over his grave, an iron plate, some small railings round it, and somebody was kind enough to plant a small rose bush. That was it. The writing they put on the iron plate had long since rusted away. And when Reverend Mould found the grave in 1925, he himself, being an athletic man and an amateur boxer in his day, said we have to do something for William Perry. So he did. He got together with these guys and they said, we're going to go out to the public and we want everybody to donate a shilling. And we want 100 of them. And in old money, there was 20 to the pound, that's £25. And the money was forthcoming. I've got some lovely notes here that tell you where it came from. I'll come to that in a minute. There was some from Australia, by the way. So when they decided they were going to do something, what were they going to do? They decided they were going to put a beautiful memorial with a marble top on it in place of the iron plate. And the memorial contractors given the job were down at Old Hill. And it was Joseph H. Willits of Old Hill. And they charged the then collectors of money, if you like, or the appeal personnel, £25. And it was unveiled in October 1925, covered by the Dudley Herald, to get the £25 together in £1 shilling donations. I'm going to give you a few quick names. Dudley Herald newspaper, Reverend Mould, Hugh Corbett, Mr Bradley, Mr Tranter, Mr Walters, Mr Jones, Cliff Ritson, Dick Henshaw, Walter Marsh, E. Crow, Harry Jones, all local off Cateshill. And then there were others. There was Mr Edwin Perry, Stockton-upon-Tees, Liverpool Stadium Seconds Football Club, centre shilling. Jack Hanlon, Liverpool, Mr Hanbury of Bolton, J. Hanbury of Australia, J. A. Shepherd of Sedgley, and Annan gave his money directly to Reverend Mould. So it was in real sporting spirit that the money was coming in, thick and fast. And then Reverend Mould decided to go to the newspaper and to make sure that he would not be forgotten once this grave was put there. Because had that had been left as it was, clearly it would have been lost to sight forever. And he said, I'll quote his words, the Tipton Slasher was a very gallant man and a brave fighter. He left behind a name for courage and sportsmanship. The old prize ring was the chief parent of the present British ideal of playing the game. Does anybody know where that old expression comes from, coming up to scratch? Across that pugilist boxing ring at the back of the marquee, in the centre would be a scratch line, and the referee invited opponents to come up to scratch. If you failed to make scratch, the other guy took the prize. So that's where coming up to scratch comes from. The second appeal, this was in 1952, and it was by Councillor Sam Wright, a former licensee of the Free Bodies Tavern. And Councillor Wright with others, including Jack Downing, the undertaker, and his assistant, Mr Myers, off Cateshill. They formed a group of guys together in the Free Bodies pub and a local dart shield. You know, a shield went around the local pubs, and they decided to give money, and they had enough money to refurbish the grave. They also noticed that on the inscription, it had got his date of birth wrong. But bless him, they put 1820 and it was 1819 March. His birth certificate we've got, or copy of. And he also died Christmas Eve, 1880, to the age of 61. And that was a marvellous success with the refurbishment of the grave. They also inserted Champion of England, 1850 to 1857. Although Randolph Turpin was trying to get there, he never quite made it. But the Jack Holden, if anybody remembers the ex-marathon runner, Jack Holden, 1952 was a long time ago. Well, he did the service, and the vicar was H.E. Jones, the then vicar of St John's the Evangelist Church at Cates Hill. Tipton Slasher, third appeal, 1988. A third public appeal by the good people of Tipton. It was the amateur boxing club situated in Alexander High School Annex, Queen's Road, Tipton, just down the road. It was a newly formed boxing club, and it entered the Sandwell Marathon with runners in both the full and the half marathon. And money was raised by sponsorship, and that was to clean up and restore the grave. And the Masons was H. Keenan Limited of Sutton Coalfield, and they charged the boxing club £100 on the 30th of September 1988. That's the third appeal. The fourth appeal, which involved my very self, was during 1992. I and a pal of mine, Gordon Marsh, a pigeon flyer, we met up with Martin Collinson, Steve Woodward, who's standing at the back, by the way, at the Noah's Ark pub, just down the road here in Wood Street. They pointed out the people of Cates Hill were not looking after the good remains of Wiliam Perry, neglecting the grave. It was a disgrace. Asked me what I was going to do about it. And I said, well, clean it up. That ain't good enough. If you don't hurry up and do something, we're going to dig him up and bring him here to Coronation Gardens. So we had quite a heated debate. I'll cut out most of the Anglo-Saxon, and it was agreed to formalise ourselves, and we will launch a 1992 appeal. Its ambition was to raise enough money. We're going to think big. We're going to put a statue up in Tipton. And we thought big. We decided that was our goal, and it happened. We could have always scaled it back, but never mind, we did what we had to do. Local newspapers were contacted, and the meeting took place again in the Fountain Inn. And I made contact with the likes of Chris Martin, Tipton and Coseley Building Society, who have been fantastic throughout the whole of this fundraising event. We talked to them. He said he would be treasurer, look after the money, and he also opened a bank account in the society to keep tabs on the finance. Mr. Ian Walden himself, sitting here, director of the Backcountry Museum at the time, he became a good consultant on how to do the project properly, and furthermore, he said, I'll help you with fundraising. Fantastic, thank you, Ian. I was elected chairman of media. Martin Collins and Steve Woodward were research and marketing. And in brackets, it's Tipton Media. And I said, why? They said, we don't trust you. Well, fair enough. So I did all the media, televisions, radios, everything. Well, let me do the Tipton Media. And then at our meetings, we got to know Bill Haynes. Where are you, Bill? Where are you, Bill? Give us a big wave. Oh, no, I'm enjoying myself now.
I'm having messages from the audience.
Well, I'm doing this bit. It soon became clear that Bill Haynes, the gentleman sitting there, wasn't only a good black country fella, wasn't only a brilliant lad when you was talking to him, he was somewhat of an artist. So I said to Bill, what you got in mind? He said, shall I make you a model? I said, fantastic, Bill. You'll make me a model? Yeah, make you a model in clay. And he produced his model. And when the model arrived, everybody was aghast. That's it. That was it. So anyway, I'm being scorned by my timekeeper. All I can say is Steve Field, the butter artist of Dudley, and the butter artist of Sandwell, Francisca Miller, we asked them, you know, are we okay to do this? Everything okay? And they go, oh, no. You can't use an unknown bloke from Tipton. You've got to use a proper artist. I said, what do we do? He said, well, you go out to a commission, international, not national, go international. And you get your people come in and you've got to pay them then to produce a little model. I said, we ain't paid Bill. You've got to pay them. And then that's going to cost about 20,000. And he said, to get a bronze statue in Tipton, your budget should be 100,000. I couldn't pick myself up off the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, in pound coins, in £5 notes, and as much as £1,000 cheques arrived to pay for Wiliam Perry, the Tipton Slasher. I'll continue later. It's in 3 parts. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Jim, for that talk. I understand you might have a bit of a speaking part in the next section as well.
I'd like you now, please, to shake hands with the referee. Today's referee, Rockwood, ladies and gentlemen, the Tipton resident, great man of honour. He will preside over the proceedings that take place this morning. So, gentlemen, you can invite them up to scratch Ray, and when you're ready, you can start them off. At any point the boxes go down, I'm sure Ray will call time.
you retreat to your corners, gentlemen. Is that fair? Thank you very much. You do understand the Fig and Broughton rules, don't you? Excellent, well done.
Boxers move straight.
And then away, ladies and gentlemen. Now, come on. Who wants the younger fella? Put your hand up if you want to support the younger fella. Quickly, put your hands up. Who wants to support the younger fella? That's Jacob. Now, who wants to support Noah? One's Jacob and one's Noah. Come on, who wants to support Noah? Right. Well, if there's any problem, you start cheering for him. Say, come on, Jacob. Come on, Noah. Come on, Jacob. Come on, Noah. Come on, Jacob. Come on, Noah.
Come on, Tom.
It's all allowed, ladies and gentlemen. There's no failing going on here. I assure you. As soon as the boxer goes down, it is the end of the round. No contest, and it's the end of the round, ladies and gentlemen. That's time. Get to your corners. Consult your seconds. Oh my lord, you haven't got any. Never mind. Pretend you're being down. You've only got 5 seconds left time. That's all it is. 3, 2. Hold to scratch. Referee Rockwood.
Hold to scratch.
Away you go, gentlemen. And as we're looking at it now, obviously Jacob's getting stuck in it. He's really doing well as we start now. And the young fellas getting really very nice. It's like being in horse race, isn't it? So all we need to do is that we placed our bets, because I've got 6-2 on Jacob. Now all this is legal in pugilism, ladies and gentlemen. It's legal to wrestle. Cage fighters thought they discovered this sport, did they, blimey? It's been going since 1752. So there we go, don't forget it. If a boxer ends up, a fighter ends up on the floor, it is the end of the round. So rounds can last anything between 10 seconds and half an hour. Oh yes, end of the round. So there we go, there's no points for you, ladies and gentlemen, no points. It is only when a boxer cannot come up to scratch. There is an invisible scratch line in the centre of the ring, and I do believe it's boxing up to scratch. Time. Lovely, away we go again. Come on, Jacob. There we go. Come on, Jacob. Isaiah, quick as you can. Oh, got him against the ropes, ladies and gentlemen. I think he means it. I think he means it. As they go forward, don't forget, we have got a couple of guys hanging back to the steel unusual treatment. Who supports Isaac? Was that a foul? Shout foul! Everybody. I'll refer to the referee. Now, don't be a petal dick. I'll refer to the referee. What did you say? No foul. Carry on, no foul. Get some glasses. Come on. Away we go again. Now what they did, ladies and gentlemen, was box like this until there was a winner declared. Wiliam Teddy did fight one fight for 177 rounds. I'm not joking, 177 rounds. He also fought, I don't want to take the thunder off the next speaker who's speaking about it very himself, but he fought an American giant, and that lasted 2 days. It went dark on him. First day, so he called himself the next second. You've got the idea, ladies and gentlemen. It goes on like this until one fighter can no longer make scratch. They've nowhere to go. They've nowhere to go. And they tell me the trail on the outside is even worse than the fighters in it. They couldn't run off. End of the round, end of the round. Have you got the general idea now, boys and girls, yeah? They keep going for one cannot make scratch. Okay, yes, last round, scratch, please. You can't say last round. One of you have got to be knocked out, boys. Please yourself with it. There's no time to go in the round. It's one incapable of making scratch. So there we go. 8 shots to the body, ladies and gentlemen. Gripping and wrestling is all fair. One fighter did actually throw another fighter clean out the ring, pick him up and throw him out. It doesn't really matter how they win as long as they win, but there's no gouging, there's no biting. But we need knockout chaps. What are we getting? Oh, that one's a knockout, was it? Come on, we'll forget about that. Get on. One of the big fella, knock the little fella out, will you? Drop down as I do. Oh! I think we might have a result on the referee Rockwood. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. I'm sure you'll be doing it a bit later on. You're winning, mate. Yep. Oh, yeah.
60p, please. Well, to me, the important thing about Tipton and any other small town, if you like, is identity. How do we identify a town and how does it punch above its weight in terms of its the way it portrays itself to the world. And in Tipton we've got lots and lots of really important historical events that are taking place. World's first. We've got the world's first steam engine built in Tipton. We've got the world record-breaking car, the Thunderbolt, built in Tipton. And we've also got this fantastic bloke, Wiliam Perry, who actually became the boxing champion, bare knuckle champion of England, came from Tipton. So it's an important part of the identity of the town that we can associate with this bloke who was a national champion.
My take really is that I think the Tipton Slasher is important to people and the area because of the heritage that it's there for. It's pulling people to the area, which then gives them a chance to look at what they do, what is being done within the area, and how much progress is being made throughout the years as these events go on. People are proud of being part of the Slasher region. And for their own reasons. I think they've all got different reasons. If you're a boxing person, then obviously you're interested in that type of thing, that sport. If you're a heritage type person, and it's all about the person and what he did and where he lived and what buildings he frequented, and obviously then people can go around and it has a history, and then you can sort of get that down on paper, or as we're doing here today, you know, put it down back into the history books and say that, you know, this is what Tipton is about. Tipton is about the people of Tipton. And I think that's what's really important, in my view.
The Tipton Slasher was a very brave man. He was a hard man. And people are so proud to be associated with his bravery. And to be honest, even myself personally, it makes me feel proud and brave and gives me confidence to get things done in life, because I think I come from the same place that the Tipton Slasher came from. But that doesn't mean to say I'm a fighting man. I used to, a little bit, but no, I'm a nice person. But I still know that if it comes down to it, I can stand up for myself, and the Tipton Slasher will be behind me, helping me. And by the way, the Black Country flag.
Yes, we're Wiliam Perry Amateur Boxing Club, and we take the kids and train them to box, and we want to remember him and honour his name.
We couldn't have done this, as I said earlier, without the support of the Tipton Community Association, who provided volunteers, equipment, including the microphone. One of the stands very close to the marquee is the historic St John's Church. The church is where the Slasher was buried. Unless you listen to some of the legends about him being dug on the earthquake. And the St John's Preservation Group have been very active since to try and bring the church back into some form of usage. So please support them. We've got a couple of gondolas going on, and they'll all be happy. Our other main sponsor is the Tipton and Coseley Building Society, and their tent is right in front of the statue.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Go. 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 Right. 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. 2, 3, 4, 5. Very good. Yes, 1, 2, deal. 2, 4, 5. 1, 2, 6, 1, 2, 6, 1, 2.
You're members of the
Wiliam Perry Club. We're in the ladies of the Wiliam Perry.
And we think that's excellent as well, because it's teaching the ladies self-defence. We can look after ourselves now and feel safe in our community.
And fitness.
It was fairly late one evening when my wife pointed out to me an advert in the paper that was appealing for someone to put in an idea for creating a statue for Tipton. Well, being a Tipton resident and studying sculpture for several years at the Birmingham School of Art, which was also part of my job, which was a creative artist in metal. I decided to apply and join the committee that was being set up to produce this statue, which had been in the offing for many years. I produced first of all a moquette, the smaller version, the 12-inch version, to get the right idea of the pose and to make it as interesting as possible. So Bill Perry became a very interesting project, which although I'd done several hundred of smaller models of all descriptions, I'd never attained the commission to do a full-size statue, which I was very keen on doing. I then did a moquette and then joined one of the meetings of the committee. They were more than pleased with it and discussed it, and eventually, over a few weeks, got the commission to proceed, and this is how the Tipton Slasher came about. It was modelled in the studio in Birmingham, and there wasn't too much time to produce it, so it was a case of working extra hours during the day to produce the model for the casters to cast in bronze, which was eventually the job was given to a casting firm in High Wycombe, and they made a wonderful job of it. It was then erected on May the 4th, and it was a success from the outset, which the people of Tipton are no doubt very pleased of.
So 21 years ago to the day, Dad had me in the lounge, striking up the posts to help him scale the model. I was a bit bigger then, so the scale was a bit more accurate, but obviously lost a bit of weight over the last 21 years. So I'm more like, I guess, like a marathon runner now than an old-fashioned boxer.
And what did you think at the time when your dad was making the statue?
I thought it was fantastic, you know, being born and bred in Tipton. You know, a lot of people have heard of the Tipton Slasher, and both me and my brother were very, very proud when Dad got the commission to do the statue. And we've each both got one of the smaller models that he did as well, the little 12-inch bronze statue. We've both got one of those at home, pride in place on the mantelpiece. And yeah, we're very, very proud.
And what do you think when you come back to something like this and still see the statue there?
Oh, it's great. It's great. I mean, we've come today. I mean, we live in Stafford now. And we've come today with our small children, and they've had a look, and they can still see the signature on the plinth. It's got W. Haynes, which is also my signature, because I'm Warren, so I'm also W. Haynes. And it's great just to think that hopefully in hundreds of years to come, it'll still be there. Tipton the Black Country's always had a good tradition of boxing. You know, there's a lot of good boxers come from the Midlands and the Black Country, and I think to have champion of England here in Tipton, albeit in the 1800s, that's what people appreciate it. Something to be proud of.
Although not quite selling out of the Tipton Slasher book, it's just been